Hi, Teri here from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is another card. I've used the Plentiful Plants stamp set together with the coordinating Perfect Plants dies. The sentiment comes from the Biggest Wish stamp set, and I've created a 3-panel card with an aperture. You can write your message on the center panel. The card will stand up and you can display it like this or like this. It's entirely up to you. So let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, take a screenshot so you can refer to it later. My card base is in crumb cake cardstock. I'm placing it into my Simply scoreboard with the long side across the top, and I'll score down at 4 inches and 8 inches. I'm going to fold both the side panels inwards and burnish the score lines with my bone folder. The right hand panel should be folded in first and then the left hand panel. Now when you do this, if you see a curve like I've got here, you need to trim the edge on the right hand panel only. Now I'm just going to trim off a tiny slither of cardstock from this edge. Fold the card base again, so right side first, then left side, and just check that the top of the card is flat. If it still curves, then you didn't trim enough off, so you need to trim a little bit more. Test the card one more time and make sure it folds perfectly flat without that curve at the top. Here is the Plentiful Plants stamp set, and today I'm going to use all of the images. The sentiment comes from the Biggest Wish stamp set. I have 3 basic white mats, all the same size, and I'm going to stamp the exact same thing on all of these in the exact same place. That's why I'm using my Stamparatus to do the stamping for me. So I'll position my first basic white panel and then I'm going to position the plant pot. Now you don't want to put this too close to the right hand side edge. Make sure there's enough room for the plant to sit in it. So once I'm happy, I'm going to pick up the plant pot stamp. Just make sure my panel is positioned correctly in the Stamparatus. Now I'm going to use Sahara Sand for the plant pot and Rich Raspberry for the plant itself. So I'll ink up my stamp and stamp it down. And because it's so light, I'm going to overstamp it. Now I'm going to repeat this for the other 2 panels. The Stamparatus will stamp each of these pots in exactly the same position on each of the panels. I can now stamp the plant itself. So I'll position my stamp first of all and pick it up with the plate, and then I'm going to mask off most of the plant pot just in case the plant overlaps it at all. And I'm just using a post-it note to do this. Then I can ink up my stamp with Rich Raspberry and stamp it down. And again I'll repeat this for the remaining 2 panels. All the other stamped elements will be stamped on basic white card. I'll be using Sahara Sand for the pots, Old Olive and Garden Green for the green plants, and then Rich Raspberry for the other. I need to stamp 2 of this first flower pot. The second one I actually stamped too close to the edge, so you'll see me stamp a replacement for that one in a minute. The little pot with the rounded bottom, I need to stamp 3. The Rich Raspberry plant, I'll need to stamp 2, and then each of the other plants will be just 1. This first one is going to be Old Olive, and the remaining 2 will be Garden Green. And then my sentiment is also going to be Garden Green, and when I stamp this I make sure there's enough room around it to die cut a circle. I've separated all the stamped elements to make it easier to die cut them. Now most will be die cut using the Perfect Plants dies, and there's an outline die for each of the images, which is great. The sentiment will be die cut using one of the layering circles dies, and this is the second size up. I'll also die cut a scallop circle from crumb cake cardstock, and this will go behind the sentiment, and this die is the second size up again. Here are all the elements after die cutting, and I can now layer my sentiment pieces together and add some dimensionals to the reverse. Here are my 3 stamped panels again. Now, if there's one that's stamped better than the rest, you want to keep that one for your center panel. Mine were all the same, so it doesn't matter which I use. Now I'm going to draw the shelf underneath my pot, and this will be for that center panel first. And it's just going to be a little floating shelf, so it's very simple to draw. Now if you didn't want to draw this freehand, you could just cut a small sort of strip of cardstock and stick that underneath. But I want mine completely flat, and I'm going to draw it. Now I'm making this shelf about 1 centimetre. It's going to extend 1 centimetre either side, which is about 3/8 of an inch. The depth of it is going to be just a little deeper than my pot. So I'm just doing it by eye, I'm not measuring this. And then I can draw the sides, and I'm just using a pencil and ruler for this. Okay, so that's my middle panel drawn. I'll colour that in shortly when I've drawn them all. This one will be my front panel, and I've already gone ahead and drawn the little floating shelf underneath the pot, which you've just seen me do for the centre panel. Now I'm going to draw a long shelf towards the bottom, and the bottom of this shelf is a 1/2 inch up, and I'm using my grid paper to help me draw this. So I'm drawing 2 parallel lines up from the bottom. Again, I'm just eyeballing the depth of it, and then I can draw in the sides. Now this last panel will be my right hand panel, and because I want all the panels slightly different, I'm going to draw 2 long shelves, one on the bottom just like before, and my shelf underneath the pot will also be the same length. I'm also just eyeballing the gap that I'm leaving at the sides of the floating shelves. Mine are approximately 1/2 inch, which is 3/4 of a centimetre. And here are my 3 panels together. Now I'm colouring in the shells using my dark crumb cake blends marker, but you could use any medium to do this. I'll just show you the colouring for one of the shells. So starting by outlining the bottom of the pot, I'll then outline the shelf itself. Then I'll fill in the colour and leave it to dry just for a minute. The shading is completely optional and I've just added a little around the bottom of the pot. I'm not going to blend this out, I'm just using the same marker to add a second layer of crumb cake ink. I have 3 rich raspberry mats, all the same size, that my 3 white panels will eventually be layered onto. I'm now going to die cut the aperture, and again I'm using the layering circle dies, the 3rd size up this time. The panel that's going in the centre of the card where you write your message will not be die cut, so I'm moving that one out the way. The remaining 2 panels will be. Now when I place the die, I'm going to make sure that the bottom of the die, the inner ring of the bottom, will be lined up with the bottom curve of the plant pot. It doesn't really matter where you line it up, but I want to make sure it's where I want it to be. Now you have options here. I didn't want to leave my white panels plain. I'm going to emboss them to add texture to them. So because I'm doing that, I'm not going to layer my white panel onto my raspberry panel straight away. I'll do that afterwards, after I've embossed the white panel. But I'm going to die cut them together. So I need to line up the white panel exactly as it would be if I glued it to the raspberry panel. Line up my die, I'll probably secure it with washi and then run it through to cut both panels together. But if you're not fussed about having the embossing, you could glue your panels together now and then die cut them together. Or you could glue them together, die cut them and then emboss them both together as well. This will also emboss your rich raspberry layer, but because it's only the edge showing, you probably wouldn't notice it anyway. So I'm going to position the die over my little plant and then secure the die with some washi tape. Then I can position the raspberry mat underneath my white mat and run it through my die cutting machine. Once one set of mats has been die cut, I can use these as templates for my second set. So I'm just lining up the white mats together. If I'd have glued it to the rich raspberry, then I'd line up both sets together. And then I'm drawing around the circle with a pencil, and I can use this circle to line up my die. Secure it with washi, and then position its raspberry mat underneath it, just as before, and then I can run that through my machine. These 2 mats can then be embossed, and I'm going to use the Tasteful Textile 3D folder for this. I'm now going to layer my white mats onto my rich raspberry mats. You should be able to stack the 3 mats together and have the image line up. I'm now going to die cut the card base. The first thing you need to do is fold it correctly, so make sure you haven't got that curve on the top and the sides are folded in as they should be. Now, starting with my front panel, I'm going to line that up against the front panel on the card base, making sure my borders are even, and then when I'm happy, I'll hold it in place and I'll draw around the circle with my pencil. Then I can position the die, secure it with washi and run it through my machine. When I run it through, I will just let the machine go past the die and then I'll roll it back out the other way. I don't want to roll it all the way through because my top plate can mark the cardstock. So that's my front panel die cut, and now I need to do the right hand panel. So close the card and then position your white panel on top of it. I then find it easier to open the card back out to make sure my border's even. Once I'm happy, I can go round the circle with my pencil, remove my white panel and position the die over the circle, secure it with washi and run it through my die cutting machine. All three panels can now be added to my card base. And then all I need to do is decorate my card. I'm going to finish off my card with a few rhinestones. So one on the bottom of the sentiment, and then I think I put 6 along the centre of the flower pot. Now this version of the basic rhinestones is retired, and you had the rhinestones on a little glue string. If you haven't got those, then you've got individual rhinestones, so you'll just have to place them individually. Now on my original card I added 2 rows, but I'm just going to place 1 this time. And that's my card complete. And here's another look at my original card. Now the contrast colour I used for this one was pumpkin pie. All the other colours for the plants and pots and things were exactly the same. So there's the 2 rows of rhinestones. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.